The golden age of Hollywood was filled with glitz and glamour, but what many don't know is behind closed doors, it was quite literally a nightmare. Look, Hollywood was drugging and abusing children and young adults, specifically in this case, women. I'm sure some men got their fair share of abuse as well, but today we're going to be talking about the tragic life of Judy Garland, who you probably remember as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Just as a quick disclaimer, if you're uncomfortable with hearing about the aforementioned abuse, then I suggest you click off this video because Miss Judy had a rough life. Hi, hello, welcome back to Browser History, which is basically a culmination of random stuff I Google, usually pertaining to the history behind trendy topics. I love reading. If you enjoy reading, there's a book called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's a really great book and it goes into detail about the old Hollywood film industry and all the shady events that took place behind closed doors in order to keep these movie stars in the limelight. So naturally, because I'm nosy, I Googled who the book was based off of. Supposedly, it was a mix of Elizabeth Taylor, Ava Gardner, Rita Hayworth, and Marilyn Monroe. Somewhere in the mix, I was directed to an article about Judy Garland's horrible upbringing during this period, which is understandable because she was around the same age group as these other women. And so here we are. Judy Garland was an iconic American actress and singer, born on June 10, 1922 as Frances Ethel Gum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Garland's parents, Frank and Ethel Gum, were vaudevillains who managed a theater in Grand Rapids where Judy and her sisters often performed. If you don't know what a vaudevillain is, honestly, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Think of a small gypsy circus-like performance group. That's probably a terrible description. From an early age, Garland demonstrated a natural talent for singing and performing. Her mother pushed her into performing, and at the age of 2, she made her stage debut as Baby Gum with her sisters in a song and dance routine. Which sounds incredibly cute, but maybe a little exploitative as well, considering that Judy was an unwanted pregnancy and her parents contemplated abortion. In 1935, the Gums moved to California, where Judy's career took off. At the age of 13, she signed a contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, and her career skyrocketed her with a role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, 1939. The film quickly became a classic, and Garland's performance of Over the Rainbow became an iconic song. Garland went on to star in numerous successful films, including Meet Me in St. Louis, 1944, and A Star is Born, 1954. She also continued to perform as a singer, and her live concerts were always popular. Garland was known for her powerful, emotional voice and her ability to connect with audiences. Composer Harold Arlen quoted Garland telling him years later, quote, "As for my feelings towards Over the Rainbow, it's become part of my life. It is so symbolic of all dreams and wishes that I'm sure that's why people sometimes get tears in their eyes when they hear it." End quote. The making of the iconic film The Wizard of Oz in 1939 was a difficult experience for Judy Garland, who was only a teenager at the time, when she faced grueling work hours and a studio system that ignored or even encouraged the use of drugs like stimulants to keep performers going and sleeping pills to help them rest. As a result, Garland became addicted to barbiturates and amphetamines even before she put on the famous ruby slippers. This addiction was partly fueled by the studio's demand for her to stay thin and energetic during long and challenging days of filming. Another gross fact is that she was sexually assaulted by the men who played the Munchkins. They would put their hands up her dress while on set. Keep in mind, she's literally still a child at this point. If I was on set, there would be fingerless Munchkins bleeding out everywhere. Judy Garland's struggle with addiction to drugs began at a young age when her mother gave her pills for energy and sleep. Yes, you heard that right. This mother gave her child drugs before she was even 10 years old. In addition, the studio where she worked mistreated her, calling her names and forcing her to go on diets with severely restricted food intake. To maintain her weight, she was only allowed to consume chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes, along with pills to suppress her appetite. According to Garland's third husband, Sid Luft, quote, most of her teen and adult life, she had been on either benzendazole or a diet or both, end quote. Her small stature made it difficult for her to hide any extra weight on camera, and she was often dancing and singing in revealing costumes. Judy Garland was not the only one forced to take pep pills, as they're called in the entertainment industry. Her co-star Mickey Rooney was also required to take them. Both actors were pushed to their limits by the studio, and they did not speak about their experiences until many years later. According to Garland, quote, they had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted. Then they'd take us to the studio hospital and knock us out with sleeping pills. Mickey sprawled on the one bed and me on the other, end quote. They were then woken up 4 hours later, given pep pills again so they could work another 72 hours straight. Despite feeling exhausted, they had no choice but to keep going, as it was part of the industry's culture at the time. And these are teenagers, remember, so still children essentially. 1 year before filming began on The Wizard of Oz, studio managers were exchanging memos about Judy Garland's food consumption. By the time filming began, she was already in a cycle of using both upper and downer drugs, aka stimulants and depressants. When Judy Garland was 17 years old, she was a full-figure teenager transitioning into adulthood. To ensure that Dorothy's appearance was viewed as wholesome and youthful by the audience, the studio resorted to binding Garland's breasts and using corsets to keep a slim figure, while also limiting her food intake, as usual, and providing her with a consistent supply of drugs. Despite these extremely difficult conditions, Garland managed to deliver an unforgettable performance, which highlighted her exceptional talent. Garland's reliance on yo-yo dieting and pills became so entrenched that she struggled with them along with heavy alcohol consumption for the rest of her life. In her later years, she spoke about her experience being a, quote, walking advertisement for sleeping pills, end quote. Despite the fact that they were prescribed by a doctor, Garland acknowledged that pills, even those prescribed by a doctor, could cause significant strain on the nervous system. To be fair, I don't think doctors in that time fully understood the side effects of abusing pills, but I also recognize that there's probably no way they did not, at the very least, suspect the abuse of these prescribed pills since they were being acquired by or paid for by the studios. There's just so many people at fault here, so just send everyone to jail. Just send them all to jail at this point. So, just when you probably thought it couldn't get worse, it does. Judy's image while at MGM was that of youth. She was cast in younger roles because of her height and face, and the studio really didn't want to jeopardize their little moneymaker by letting her have children. When Judy was married to her first husband, she wanted to have a baby. She kept the pregnancy a secret as long as she could, but eventually they found out. By they, I mean the studio and her evil mother. Since her pregnancy was not approved by the studio, she was pressured to get an abortion. I use the word pressured very lightly. They forced her to eliminate a wanted baby because they didn't want to lose money. I should do an entire video about men forcing women in Hollywood to have abortions because it's very disturbing, but kind of also an interesting twist on today's opinion of abortion. Anyways, this deeply affected Judy mentally. Imagine being a 20-year-old woman who is forcefully addicted to drugs by her own mother, isn't being adequately fed, forced to work insane hours, ridiculed by your bosses because of how you look and your weight, sexually harassed, and then forced to have not one but 2 abortions while you're married. I commend her for even having the strength to make it past 20 years old, because I could not. While Judy Garland's career was marked by success and struggles, her personal life also had its highs and lows. Garland was married 5 times and had 3 children throughout her life. Her first marriage was to composer David Rose in 1941, but the couple divorced just a year later. She then married director Vincente Minnelli in 1945, and the two had a daughter named Liza Minnelli, who also became a famous actress and singer. The couple unfortunately divorced in 1951. Garland's third marriage was to producer Sidney Luft in 1952. And the two had 2 children together, a son named Joey and a daughter named Lorna. However, the couple's marriage was tumultuous and they eventually got divorced in 1965. Garland's fourth marriage was to actor Mark Herron in 1965, but the couple divorced just 6 months later. Her fifth and final marriage was to nightclub manager Mickey Deans in 1969, just a few months before her death. Garland's personal life was also marked by struggles in addiction, depression, and anxiety. She had several hospitalizations throughout her life and various health issues, including her addiction to drugs. There was an incident in later years where she cut her own throat. However, it's also said that that incident was exaggerated by the press, so I don't know the severity of the cut and if it was as big of a deal as it sounds when I read about it. Garland's personal life and relationships add a layer of complexity to her legacy as an actress and singer. Her struggles with addiction and mental health are part of her story, but so too are her relationships with her children and the warmth and kindness she showed to those around her. Judy Garland's singing career was legendary, and her time at MGM Studios was a major contributor to her success. Garland's unique voice, emotional performances, and ability to connect with audiences set her apart from other performers of her time. Her MGM years saw the release of some of her most iconic films, including The Wizard of Oz, Meet Me in St. Louis, and A Star is Born. Garland's talent as a singer was recognized early in her career. She won an Academy Juvenile Award at the age of 17 for her performances in The Wizard of Oz and Babes in Arms. She went on to record many popular songs, including Over the Rainbow, The Trolley Song, and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Her music remains a staple of American culture and is celebrated to this day. Despite her success as a singer, Garland's time at MGM was not always easy. She faced intense pressure to conform to the studio's standards and was often subject to harsh criticism. She also struggled with addiction issues and was often overworked. However, her talent and resilience kept her in the spotlight even after MGM released her. Judy Garland's life was marked by both success and tragedy. Despite her legendary career as a singer and actress, she faced numerous personal struggles later in her life, including severe financial issues. Garland's addiction to drugs and alcohol began during her time at MGM and continued throughout her life. She faced numerous health issues as a result of her substance abuse, including multiple hospitalizations and struggles with depression and anxiety. She also faced significant financial issues, which were exacerbated by her addiction. By the late 1940s, she owed thousands in back taxes to the IRS. Her finances had been mismanaged for years due to fraud and embezzlement by her agents. According to my research, she was about $500,000 in debt, which is equal to about $5 million today. Garland's personal struggles eventually took a toll on her career. She faced criticism from the media and the public, and her reputation suffered. Despite attempts to revive her career, including a highly publicized concert at Carnegie Hall in 1961, her addiction and financial issues continued to dominate her life. Tragically, Garland's life came to an end in 1969 at the age of 47. She died in an accidental drug overdose, leaving behind a legacy that was both iconic and complicated. Her daughter Liza has hinted that it could have been suicide, but I don't think that will ever be determined, and honestly, I don't think it really matters at this point. Judy Garland's legacy as an iconic performer has been immortalized in books and film. Her life and career have been the subject of numerous biographies, memoirs, and films, showcasing the lasting impact of her work and enduring fascination with her as a person. It's weird, but we as a society love to consume female pain. I don't know why. Some of the most notable books about Garland include Judy Garland, The Life of an American Legend by David Shipman, Get Happy, The Life of Judy Garland by Gerald Clark, and Judy and I, My Life with Judy Garland by Sid Luft, who, if you remember, was also her husband. These books explore both Garland's personal struggles and her contributions to the world of entertainment, painting a complex portrait of a talented but troubled individual. Garland's life has also been the subject of numerous films, including the biopic Judy, starring Renee Zellweger. The film, released in 2019, tells the story of Garland's final months and her legendary performances at London's Talk of the Town Club. Zellweger's performance as Garland earned her critical acclaim and an Academy Award for Best Actress. Despite the challenges she faced throughout her life, Garland's enduring legacy has continued to inspire generations of performers and fans. Her talent and resilience have cemented her in a place in the pantheon of Hollywood icons, and her story serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the power of art and perseverance. I'll leave you with one last Judy quote that I really think paints the best picture of her. Quote, "I've always taken the Wizard of Oz very seriously, you know. I believe in the idea of the rainbow, and I've spent my entire life trying to get over it." End quote. So that's all I have about Judy. Sorry for ruining your childhood. I really hope all of those terrible child abusers lived long, painful, and miserable lives. I cannot believe some of the terrible things I've heard about the treatment of old Hollywood stars. Like, you gotta look this stuff up after you click off this video. It's crazy. All for money, of course. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Let me know what weird topic you would like to hear about next. I hope you have a blessed and abundant day. Bye.